Andrew Bailey.
Mr. Speaker, at times like this, I feel sorry for you. Some of these speeches we've heard today are just... I don't even know if Mr. Ron Mark has actually read the budget. He didn't even quote anything from the budget. It was totally dislocated from anything we've talked about this afternoon. And I was also very disappointed with the opposition member talking about finance because, Mr. Speaker, we're missing a context. And the context is, how is New Zealand progressing economically? And I just haven't heard that from anyone over the other side of this House. So, Mr. Speaker, may I just take the opportunity just to talk about a few of the facts. So, GDP growth. Well, we're lucky, aren't we, because we've got very positive GDP growth. And as the opposition spokesman for finance would have heard this morning from the Reserve Bank Governor, if he had read the report, the new monetary statement, we have in fact got higher projected levels of economic growth over the next 3 years. 3.4% of GDP growth, a great average that most countries around the world are absolutely envious of. Secondly, we are returning to surpluses. We have gone from $18.4 billion 4 years ago to a surplus last year to an even greater surplus, and I note at the 11th month result of this year, the obligor account was $2.3 billion in surplus, and that means that we're going to have an even greater surplus this year if we can take that forward through to the June month. And, Mr. Speaker, that is a great achievement by our Minister of Finance. We've also reduced debt. No one seems to talk about it, but I love talking about it because we've reduced our government debt from 25% to under 20%. And that is a good thing. And if most people who own a house or whatever know the importance of reducing debt, and we've done it very diligently during a period of great economic upheaval around the world. We've also reduced the government sector. And I noted that the Minister of Finance complimented our government sector and the hard-working people in it. But the cost of it, we have reduced it from a bloated 34% as it was under the last Labor government to now just under 30%. That is a great achievement, and at the same time we're delivering better outcomes. And also we're turning this economy towards an export focus. And against the backdrop of a declining dairy industry, we still reported a $2 billion increase in exports coming from a whole range of export industries: tourism, construction, beef industry, wine, ICT. Shall I go on, Mr. Speaker? Maybe not. We have got a growing, diversified economy. And I can say to you this morning, I've just been down to visit this fantastic little business here in Wellington. It is an animation business. It is world-leading technology. It has been developed here by creative New Zealanders. That's the type of people that we want to see. That's the type of businesses we want to see being developed in New Zealand. And here it is, only just down the road here in Cambridge Terrace, an outstanding example of creative New Zealanders diversifying, creating real value for New Zealanders, and in the process, actually creating high-value jobs. And just talking about jobs, 200,000 new jobs over the last 3 years, and even by Treasury's forecast, an extra 170,000 forecast to be achieved over the next 3 years. And against that, growing wages. And contrary to what Mr. Grant Robertson said, I don't know where he got his knowledge from, just unbelievable misinformation. But since this government's come to office in 2008, the average wage has increased by 16,000 and now is at 63,000. And turning to the monetary thing, which I think you talked about this morning, that we looked, we're all aware that inflation is remarkably low, 0.4%, and forecast to go to 0.2% in the next quarter, to the September quarter. In real terms, virtually zero, Mr. Grant Robertson. Even against that, wage price inflation over the last 3 years, let's quote, 1.7% in 2014, 1.8, 1.8. In my terms, that means a net increase of really just under 2%. And going forward, all these figures, Mr. Grant Robinson, are showing positive, and perhaps until 2019 when they forecast inflation, finally to get to 2.1%. And even you were sceptical about that this morning, Mr Grant Robinson. So we have got growing wages, and that's great for New Zealanders. So what does all this mean, Mr Speaker? It means options. It means options for all of us to be able to spend on the things that we really want to spend on to improve New Zealanders' outcomes. And it also is about sharing the benefits with all New Zealanders. So I just want to go back to the budget, Mr Speaker.
Good move.
761 million has been put towards growing an innovative economy. And, you know, we're making a remarkable investment in science and innovation. We put in another 411 in this budget, and we're hoping to get it to 1.6 billion by 2020. Mr Speaker, we are absolutely committed to the science and innovation sector. 257 into our tertiary institutes. And also we've got regional development, 100 million thrown into that. But I just want to turn to the issue of skilled workers, Mr Speaker. Now, we know that skilled workforce is the powerhouse for a thriving economy. And the budget 2016 allocated 14.4 million over 4 years, which means we are going to get another 5,500 new people into apprenticeships. Now, Mr Speaker, I want to remind you, there are already 42,000 people in apprenticeships. That'll take us close to 50,000. But what's more, we've put in more money to help Maori and Pacific Islanders, and we're hoping to get another 2,500 into apprenticeship schemes. Mr Speaker, this is about creating the opportunity for people to get great jobs, get paid well, and to be able to afford the houses that we need to do, look after their families, Mr Speaker. And I'm fully in support of all those initiatives around that. Mr Speaker, education, huge investment. Nearly 900 million into building new schools. I was just going back through some of the press releases. The Honourable Nikki Kay is just perpetually going to new schools, telling them how much they're going to be, we're going to invest in them to improve their lot. Because, Mr Speaker, we're absolutely committed to creating the right environment for people, our children, to learn and benefit from a great education outcome. And this huge investment in the budget, nearly 400 million into early educational centres, and already we've got significantly high participation rates in it, and I fully endorse the approach and the investment in that area, because we want to see our young toddlers going into early education centres, getting the right groundwork for our schooling, and then carrying on through our great schooling system. Health. It was great listening to Annette King talking before. She has got a good point that health is really a growing investment for New Zealand. We are investing. We're putting 16.1 billion into it. A staggering 2.2 billion was invested or allocated in this budget. The whole argument around health that I hear is that because we've got 69,000 new immigrants on a per capita basis, we must be going backwards. On my reckoning, 2.2 billion is a significant increase over the existing population and at current budget. And most of that's going into DHBs, 1.6 billion, 170 billion into disability support, 100 billion into elective surgery, making 148,000 new surgeries that we do every year, mainly for our older people, which is great. Bowel cancer and tobacco prices and the increase in Farm Act that she acknowledged. Mr Speaker, the other area I just want to talk about is the environment. And I think it is great that we are starting to turn our mind to a significant investment, carrying on with the 100 million that we already invest. I greatly appreciated the announcement by Honourable Paula Bennett into the ETS changes, but the additional 100 million that was set aside in this budget for cleaning up our waterways, the targeted pest control, the investment into reducing or eliminating wilding pines, and the more recent announcement about being predator-free by 2050, I think, Mr Speaker, are phenomenal and courageous and wonderful initiatives that we should be pursuing. And also I should acknowledge the Minister of Transport who's sitting in front here, the wonderful initiatives around electric vehicles, trying to increase those and get them up to about 60-odd thousand by 2030. I think those are great initiatives, Mr Speaker. And when you think about all the other good stuff on this thing, the policing, the 300 million that Honourable Judith Collins got, This is just, I could just go on, Mr. Speaker, but unfortunately I've got to sit down. Thank you.